At Wind River Resort and Casino, we like to celebrate life's little moments. Oh, and the big ones too. Because around here, when you're completely in the moment, that's when the magic happens. Come in and find your moment at Wind River Resort and Casino.
Well, happy hump day to you all. I'm Chief Meteorologist Mike Krueger. Thank you for joining me here on Coffee with Krueger. Enjoying my second cup of coffee of the day. By the time I get to Coffee with Krueger, I'm on my second cup of coffee, without a doubt. So I usually go 2 cups of coffee, and then I kind of call it quits after the show with coffee because I don't want to get too jittery, right? Look at this photo. I mean, this was sent by Eric Caldwell. Checked it, my images, see if anybody's sending the images this morning, and Eric sent this yesterday. So this was obviously a couple of nights ago when we saw the Northern Lights. It was the big news, a big solar flare. It was supposed to be historical. It certainly was spectacular and beautiful, but I think we've seen better. That just kind of goes to show you the forecasting technology for solar flares and the Northern Lights is still just far behind forecasting in general. I think I read somewhere that it's where we were in the 1950s as far as weather forecast is concerned. So there's just a lot to learn about forecasting what the Northern Lights are going to do, and I'm sure that technology will get better. But that all being said, it doesn't matter any of that. Look at this beautiful picture. Now, Eric Caldwell, I believe, is a professional photographer, and that was just beautiful, 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 beautiful. Debbie Castro saying, I love seeing the video you had yesterday. Yeah, that was from a time lapse from one of the cameras up in extreme Northern California. I believe it was in Modoc County. Clear skies, no city lights. It just turned out to be absolutely, you could just see the dancing lights and the stream of lights. So it was absolutely gorgeous. So again, I want to thank Eric for sending in this photo. And you can do the same, by the way. Here's the deal. You can share photos all you want, and I love seeing them on Facebook, and I have no issues with that. And if it comes down to it, I will grab a photo from Facebook and put it into the weather computer. However, it is much easier for me to share photos that are shared from the free Weather NorCal app because it goes right into my weather computer system. I can just grab them really easily. It's super simple, and it's as easy as that. So if you don't have the Weather NorCal app, first question is, why not? Get it. It's free. You know, here's the thing, and I've noticed this. I've been looking at the current conditions, and it's on my watch. It's going off of the native Apple app, weather app. The current temperatures have been way off. And then I go to my app, go to the Weather NorCal app. I'm like, wow, the current temperature is actually correct and accurate, but the native app for Apple isn't. And the forecast it's completely 100% computer generated. There is no human interaction. The Weather NorCal app, there is human interaction, and that human is me. So download the app for free today for the weather information, but also it allows you to share your photos as well. All right, so let's start the morning off with, yes, another fog advisory. This is until noon, Glen and Butte counties. We have actually seen some pretty dense fog in some areas this morning. Red Bluff was down to about a quarter-mile visibility earlier. Now it's back up to about a mile visibility, so conditions have improved there. You can see some of the fog in Oroville, much more dense fog to the south into Sacramento region. That looks to be working its way northward here this morning. But what's impeding some of this fog this morning, by the way, is the added cloud cover we have out there this morning. But let's take a look at some areas, some of the cameras. This is coming in from Red Bluff. There you can see the fog that we do have out on I-5 in Red Bluff. Patchy, dense fog, right? This is exactly what we talk about. It could be clear where you start off with, but then eventually, boom, you hit some pretty dense fog, and that's why you got to be careful with that. It looks like the visibility has dropped a bit on Main Street Chico on Highway 32. You can see some of the visibility that we have at Sundial Bridge Drive. Looks good for now, but there may be some patchy fog even in the Redding area. This is looking at Sutter Butte. Now, if you look beyond the mountain, see that little peak of the mountain there, kind of in the middle of your screen? Beyond that is the valley. So we go south into Southern Butte, into Southern Glen, and of course, south of that, you've got that fog. So just be aware of that on your morning commute. Let's get into your Krueger's Quick Cast. For those of you that just want a quick look at your forecast for the day, you got it right here with Krueger's Quick Cast. Typically just do it within a few minutes. So temperatures in the low to mid 40s for your temperatures right now in the valley. We've got 20s and 30s for the higher elevations and mid 40s for the coast. So for this morning, mostly cloudy skies. Now, that's not necessarily where you see the clouds doesn't necessarily mean where the fog is, because outside of the fog, we've actually got mostly cloudy skies. You think about what we saw yesterday. That's about what we've got now. So you see all the clouds that have been filtering in since yesterday. And look at that. There's actually some rain associated with this area of low pressure as expected. But that rain, it's going to stay to our south. And even then, it's not going to be all that significant. There's a look at Futurecast. There's 5 o'clock today. See, if you're heading south into Yuba City, Rockland, Sacramento area, you may run into a sprinkle or even a light shower. Now, the model wants to maybe tonight bring some of that in extreme southern Butte, maybe even southern portions of Plumas and Glenn counties. But most of it's going to stay to the south, and don't expect it to be much. Taking a look at Mount Shasta Ski Park, still open, 26 inches at the top of Douglas as of the latest report. I think that was from yesterday. Groomed, thin cover, obstacles, the works. It's basically that type of situation. Although I would assume that the conditions were actually pretty good yesterday afternoon because we saw a lot of that cloud cover, and that probably prevented the snow from getting as soft as it typically does. We got a couple of people checking in this morning. Yeah, we got Lisa, Debbie, and Curtis. Good morning to you all. Let's take a look at the temperatures out there for today. Mid-50s for the south end of the valley, low 60s northward. Mainly 50s for the higher elevations and upper 40s to low to even mid-50s for the coast. Tonight, still cloudy skies, but it's eventually tomorrow that we'll probably start to see those clouds begin to dissipate throughout the day. With, again, that potential for some of that morning fog, especially southward. But look at the 7-day forecast. Are you seeing any raindrops? I'm not. It's not happening, folks. And, the thing is, as we get closer to the period where we're talking about the potential for rain near the end of next week, it's not looking good. Even the forecast model, the European forecast model, which has been pretty aggressive with not only the rainfall in general, but how much rainfall we see, it's backing off too. Really what's been more consistent is the American forecast model, the GFS. It's been fairly consistent with a drier solution. And it looks like that may be the case. We'll get into that in the deeper dive here in just a little bit. But let's take a look at some of the cameras across the region. Can't see much on this camera, so we'll just go to the next one. Taking a look at Lake Oroville, North Forebay. Can't see much here either, and it's mainly because of that fog that we are seeing out there. Now, the fog is not as dense out at Main Street Chico on Highway 32 as we saw that earlier. This is Highway 99 at Neal Road. It looks like we have some patchy fog there. Some reduced visibilities are certainly what we're seeing there. And of course, we saw that earlier. Red Bluff has some pretty dense fog and has been down to about a quarter of a mile less, or less that is here, throughout the morning. Highway 44 at Sundial Bridge Drive. Looks like everything is pretty much clear there as well. But there's going to be some patchy fog across the board in the valley. And there's a look at Sutter Buttes. We saw that just a little bit earlier. We're seeing that especially southern Butte, Glen, southward into Sacramento, some pretty dense fog there. This camera's been having some issues staying online, but this is the latest image as of about a half hour ago. Still pretty overcast and a little foggy for those of you along the coast. This is Bald Hill West, looking down at Hoopa. Can't see anything because, socked in with that fog as we'd expect. A lot of those mountain valleys west of the valley, and including western Siskiyou County, seeing some of that fog. And we're also seeing that fog this morning in Fort Jones. Looks like it's dissipating a little bit. You can see some of the city lights there. So not quite as dense with that fog that we saw the last couple of mornings. Taking a look at Lassen Park. Lots of snow up there. That certainly is a beautiful sight to see. All right, that is going to do it for our Krueger's Quick Cast. Hope you have yourselves a great day. We're going to get into the deeper dive here in just a bit. But first, a word from our sponsor, and that is Wind River Resort and Casino. At Wind River Resort and Casino, enjoy friendly service, a wide variety of specials and promotions, plus all of your favorite slots and table games. All right, if you're just joining us and you missed it at the very top, this is I wanted to share this because you don't want to miss this. Northern Lights in Lake Siskiyou. So this is Lake Siskiyou looking at Mount Shasta. Eric Caldwell sent this photo from the free Weather NorCal app. You can send your photos from the free Weather NorCal app from your iPhone or your Android. Just search for Weather NorCal. Put a space between the two. Search for it, and you can download that app for free. I want to thank Eric for sending in that beautiful picture. So more of that morning valley fog, patchy morning valley fog, above average highs and possible showers next week. Let's check in with some of you this morning before we get into that deeper dive. We have got this morning Debbie Castro saying, wow, I love seeing the video we had yesterday. Of course, she was talking about that from yesterday's, the night before, where we saw the Northern Lights, and we got to see kind of a time lapse of that the Northern Lights, kind of that dance that you kind of get from it. Absolutely gorgeous. Curtis Brown, one of our regulars here, checking in, saying no fog at your location. So yeah, we're seeing patchy fog, and that's kind of the fine definition of patchy fog, isn't it? Lisa Strickland, a regular, also saying good morning to y'all. And we've got Christina. I believe this may be a new face. Haven't seen her. Good morning. So welcome, Christine. So glad you could join us this morning. And we got Deborah Ann. I believe you've made a few comments before. Good morning. Woohoo. No fog in Etna, but warm, 29 degrees. Etna. Okay, good. Thank you, Deborah, for that report, because we could see there from that image that Scott Valley looked like it's not quite as foggy there this morning. So I'm sure, yes, I love the woohoo in there, because I'm sure it's just been the last several weeks just socked in with fog. And at some points, some days, it's been foggy all day long, so good for you. That is fantastic. All right, well, we're going to get into our deeper dive forecast now. We're really going to dive into that forecast, see what's going on with that potential for wet weather toward the end of next week. But first, a word from our sponsor of the deep dive forecast, Shasta Hearing Aids.
Hearing isn't just about sound. It's about being part of every moment. This isn't your grandparents' hearing aid. It's a smart hearing aid for modern life. It's Bluetooth enabled, easy to control from your phone with your personal prescription, delivering the clarity you need. All that technology at half the cost of competitors, so you never miss a moment worth hearing. With our Here For You program, you get personal care and support every step of the way. This is what quality care sounds like.
All right, so we're going to start off by just mentioning the dense fog advisory. Now, there is dense fog in other areas. So even though Tehama County is not part of the dense fog advisory, we've actually seen some of the most dense fog there this morning. And this just kind of goes to show you, even with the National Weather Service, they tend to be a pretty reliable source. But even they, it just kind of proves that forecasting the fog can be a very difficult task, folks. And so that's why we talk about the potential for that patchy fog. You're driving around, you see some fog, you don't see some fog, you see some fog again. So just take it easy, allow yourself a little bit of extra time. Where we're seeing the most dense fog is Red Bluff, and then south near Oroville, and then south of that going into Yuba City and out towards places like Sacramento. We're seeing some of that dense fog as well. We're also seeing some patchy fog for some of you in the mountain valleys, especially to the west. As we saw, there's no fog in Etna this morning. What a great sight for you this morning. It's been pretty foggy there. And some fog out along the coast, and some of those inland valleys seeing some of that fog too. Now, temperatures are fairly mild this morning. Low to mid-40s in the valley. Out towards El Tourist, about 27 degrees, so still below freezing there, as well as Susanville, 25 in Bernie. 30 from Mount Shasta City. We got those mid-40s right now along the coast. So again, don't take this to be exact, but what this is basically showing is we still have the ingredients for the potential for some of that morning fog, in particular, patchy fog, dense fog for some of us at times too, and that could probably continue into your Thursday night and even possibly your Friday morning as well. Now, outside of the fog, you may have noticed yesterday, and of course we talked about this, is the cloud cover coming in from this area of low pressure here, the clouds kind of being streamed in Northern California. And really, California in general. Like, look at that, all of California under those cloudy skies. And we're going to see that again this morning and this afternoon and tonight. But you see the clearing here? That's what's going to be moving in later tomorrow and then into Saturday. And then this looks impressive, doesn't it? But, boy, I tell you what, it's beginning to look more and more like all the models just want to push all that energy to the north and the Pacific Northwest. So what do we have today? Well, how about this? There's the cloud cover, right? But look where the rain is, which, by the way, is very light. You may run into a stray sprinkle or light shower to the south of us if you're heading down to Sacramento today. Then on Thursday, you can see it mostly down to the south here to Southern California. And then another kind of weak disturbance kind of pushes down, kind of one last little push for Southern California Friday, very light. And then we can see things dry out. We've got that clearing skies here for your Friday, Saturday. All right, there you can see that area of low pressure. There it is. It's beginning to move on out. So this is a look at Friday. This high pressure is going to be building back in for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. It weakens a bit on Sunday, and that's going to allow more clouds to move in. And it looks like high pressure settles back in, though, by Monday, Tuesday. That's what this model wants to show, right? That it kind of weakens, but then kind of gathers some more strength. So based off of this model, and I'm going to tell you something. You know, a lot of times we talk about the European forecast model, the American forecast model. And honestly, many times we tend to favor in the long range when we go out, 10 days or so, we tend to favor the European as it tends to have a much better track record with the long range than the American forecast model. However, I'll say this, with what we're seeing here and what we're expecting for next week, this model, the GFS, the American forecast model, has been the most consistent with keeping things fairly dry. Yes, there have been some model runs where it pushes through a few light shower activity, but that's because the key to what we're expecting for next week, the end of next week, is high pressure. What is that high pressure going to do? Where is it going to be? How strong will it be? There are all these different factors coming into play. And you can see high pressure builds back in towards the end of next week right here. That's a blocking ridge right there. And that's going to prevent these storms from moving in. There were other indications that the main area of high pressure is here that would still block it a little bit and divert the energy to our north, but still maybe allow for a few light showers to move through. Now, the European forecast model, it has been fairly consistent over the last week with bringing in some decent rain and some good rain and still showing that as we go into the end of next week. However, what I've noticed here the last few days is the European forecast model is backing off on the intensity of that rain and seeing those showers and those storm systems breaking up before they get here. So, after all of that, what can we expect going into the end of next week? I would say at this point that there still is going to be a slight chance for maybe a few light showers, especially for the coast late next week. Is it going to be anything significant? At this point, I don't think so. In fact, the Climate Prediction Center is picking up on that. You see how it's just got this little sliver of green indicating that first category of a slim chance of seeing above normal rainfall. So we're seeing that for the coast. This area right here is what we call equal chance. It's neither below or above normal rainfall. So there still is that chance we could see maybe a little bit of wet weather. But when we start getting into here and here, our chances for rain are very minimal. And that's essentially what it's looking like here for the end of the month and beginning of next month. Temperature-wise, yes, it looks above normal. And boy, that looks like a heat wave, doesn't it? But it's not. Temperatures are going to be above normal, but only by about 3 to maybe 5 degrees at most. You can see here the 10-day trend for Reading. We actually see temperatures dropping going into the weekend, but then they kind of, see low 60s basically. And the normal high for Reading is about 58. But that being said, if the rain materializes, warmer storm systems, higher snow levels. That's what it's looking like for now. But again, that's not until the end of next week. We've still got a long ways to get before we get there. All right, take a look at the lake levels. They're still very healthy. They're dropping a little bit. We're seeing that because we haven't seen any rain, so there's nothing going into the lakes right now. But you can still see it about 138% for Lake Oroville, 134% for Trinity Lake, and Shasta Lake, about 128% of the historical average. Now, the wave heights today, not an issue, but check this out. Looks like as we go into your Thursday and even your Friday, those wave heights are increasing. So as of right now, today, there are no small crotch advisories, no advisories at all, at least along the coast there. But we are going to be looking at the potential for some small crotch advisories later on, probably by tomorrow, really, and maybe even after that into Friday. All right, so here is a look at your neighborhood forecast, sponsored in part by Dignity Health. We've got those temperatures in the mid to upper 50s for your daytime highs, clearing for tomorrow afternoon, Friday and Saturday, then more clouds for Sunday, Monday, and even Tuesday. For the North Coast, I'm keeping you dry through Tuesday, most likely even into your Wednesday. That's also the case for the inland areas, with Orleans today topping out at 60, as well as Willow Creek and Hoop about 59. Take you out to Siskiyou County. There's a look at Fort Jones, Etna. Yeah, Etna. Yeah, thank you for the report. No fog in Etna out there this morning, so most likely not seeing much in the way of fog. It may develop. You still got an hour or so before that potential for fog it kind of moves out. But with the overcast skies, that's going to make a big difference. 53 degrees for Canby, 56 degrees for Aden, and Tule Lake about 50. We take off to the eastern mountains, 53 degrees for Fall River Mills, Bernie about 52, and Paradise topping out at 60 degrees. Here's your valley neighborhood forecast to the south. Temperatures mainly in the mid-50s. We've got that chance for more fog. Better chances for fog to the south than, say, northward, but still the potential for that valley patchy fog. All right, we take a look at that 7-day outlook for Chico. Upper 50s, really, on average for the next 7 days. 61 degrees for Redding, still a bit of that temperature inversion. What that means is typically as you go higher in elevation, temperatures drop. But we're in the middle of a temperature inversion right now. So the cooler air tends to settle in the valley, and you see cooler temperatures there, and you tend to see slightly warmer temperatures in some of the foothills. So here's your 7-day forecast for Redding. A little bit warmer for Thursday, mid-60s. Then we're low 60s for Friday. So a bit of a, we'll call it mini roller coaster ride as we take you through the next 7 days. And yeah, it looks like it is going to stay dry. There you go. Okay. Well, that is going to do it for us today. Let's check in with somebody this morning. We got Lori. I actually just saw she made that comment right before I went into the deeper dive. But good morning to you, Lori. So glad you could join us. I think you're one of our semi-regulars. We've also got Curtis Brown saying, Ashley, I'm still not seeing all comments. I've clicked on live chat. Interesting. I'd be curious if it's the same thing for everybody else. Let me check mine. Let me check my feed here. Let's see if I can see the comments. Yeah, I'm just clicking on comments and it's showing all the comments here. So yeah, I'm not sure. Sorry you're having that issue, Curtis, but I'm not. I don't think it's on my end. It's probably on Facebook's end what we're dealing with there. But yeah, I can see everything just fine on my end. So yeah, sorry about that. And we've also got Jackie Dixon. Yeah, I was wondering where you were this morning, but glad to see you this morning, Jackie, one of our regulars, saying good morning from Trinidad. Good to see you, and good to see all of you this morning. I want to show this picture again because it's so awesome. I love it. It's so beautiful, and I love it when, people take the time to go to the app, share their, and I love the fact that he shared this from the free Weather NorCal app. So take a look at this. We're just going to take it full screen here. I mean, that's just gorgeous. Now, this is obviously, if you look, there is a, I forget what they call it, but you see that little logo on the bottom left? So Eric must most likely be a professional photographer. Maybe does it for a living, but, gorgeous. And, if you look at some of the detail here, I'm not sure what that is. There's a little bright spot in the right corner there in the trees. I don't know if that's a fire or what, but that's kind of neat. And then you kind of have a little bit of a little rainbow effect in the reflection of the water, and above that, then if you go to Scott Mount Shasta. This, by the way, is the body of water is Lake Siskiyou, and then looking into Mount Shasta, which, if you've ever been to Lake Siskiyou, you know how beautiful it is there, even without the northern lights. So once again, I want to thank Eric Caldwell for sharing that image. There are also some other images we're going to leave you with here this morning while we're here. We're just going to go ahead and say goodbye with more cameras across the region. This is Soda Ridge. Looks like the camera was just in transition, so a little blurry there. But this is looking out at Fort Jones this morning. You see a little bit of patchy fog out there. And as we're getting in from one of our viewers, Deborah Ann from Etna saying no fog. So again, it looks like there's some patchy fog right there in Scott Valley. This look down at kind of Fort Jones, but it's certainly a nice break for you this morning. All right, that's going to do it for us this morning. Hope you have a great rest of your day. We will see you tomorrow morning right here on Coffee with Krueger starting at 6:30 in the morning. Have yourselves a great day, everyone.